our guest speaker, members of the panel, distinguished invited guests, friends of the media, diehard supporters union, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to the maiden edition of the ETV Ghana Esports Summit. My name is Raymond Yamado and I'm the co-host of the Happy Morning Show, which airs on Happy FM and on ETV Ghana, Monday to Fridays from 5:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Welcome once again to the Accra City Hotel, where we are going to have a very, very important discussion that should lead national policy as far as football in Ghana is concerned. We would apologize for the late start of the summit, and we appreciate your patience. Before we begin today's business, we want to begin with an opening prayer. To help us with the opening prayer, I would like to invite Mrs. Eunice Tony to give us a short prayer. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Could we all please bow down our heads in prayer? Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us together to have a conversation about a sport that brings people together. We are asking, oh Lord, that this conversation is going to have positive outcomes, and we all will be happy to be part of it. Thank you for answering our prayer. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Eunice Tony. The reason why we are gathered here is not known to me, but one man knows it all. Programs Manager, ETV Ghana, Cosby Bigbe, will tell us why we are gathered here this morning. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to say good morning to you once again and welcome to the maiden edition of the Esports Summit. ETV Ghana is a part of Global Media Alliance Broadcasting Group, under which we have the Happy 98.9 FM in Accra, Y 107.9 FM in Accra, Y 102.5 FM in Kumasi, and Y 97.9 FM in Takoradi. You'd understand that when you speak to Global Media Alliance, you are speaking to Africa and the world. ETV Ghana is a 360 degrees brand which focuses on entertainment, education, and primarily carving a niche of providing novel content for its viewers. The Esports Summit, which is one of our novel and engaging programs, forms part of the station's contribution to support in building back and bringing back the love of our country, football, and sports fraternity as a whole. The 2022 edition of the Esports Summit, which focuses on the topic financing the national team, the bonus structure, and then the appearance fee structure, how possible we can sustain and maintain these structures. We will seek to improve strategy and overall direction of the game we love as a country and spearhead these activities. And this kindly is spearheaded by the team show, which is airing on ETV Ghana. This morning, the summit will witness renowned and distinguished personalities with expertise in that topic that we have chosen. They will share their expertise, they will share their suggestions ahead of Qatar 2022 World Cup. And we're hoping that we would have some guiding future discussions that would help our country in the decisions that we take going forward in the sports industry. We are proud this morning as a team to establish the basis and lead the discussion on this issue of bonuses and appearance fees and the controversies that come at the end of the day with these structures. We're hoping that there will be best practices developed out of this, and we want to contribute to the development of sports in Ghana and across the world. This is our little contribution that we want to bring to the motherland. Once again, I want to say thank you for all of you being here this morning with us, and we wish you all a fruitful time, that we would enjoy the discussion and share some epic moments together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cosby Bigbe, as the programs manager of ETV Ghana. Financing our national teams, the bonus structure and the appearance fee, the structure and its sustainability. That's the discussion we are going to have today. And when we talk about appearance fees, we talk about the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The Honorable Minister, Mustafa Yusuf, promised to be here, but because of his busy schedule, has not been able to join us here. But he sent us his best wishes through his representative. I would like to invite Alhaji M. Sani Adams, as the Head of Policy Coordination, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ministry for Youth and Sports, to give us his opening remarks. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Good. Distinguished guests, panelists, my dear supporters, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first say that we are extremely grateful as a ministry to be invited to this forum that seeks to discuss one of the most important things in Ghana that has to do with sports, and in particular football. It is one of our integral part of our mandate as a ministry, and so any opportunity to discuss a way forward to ensure that there's better implementation of our mandate, we are more than grateful to be part and parcel of it. So we thank the organizers for giving us that opportunity. And as the moderator rightly mentioned, my Honorable Minister, Mustafa Yusuf, was extremely delighted to have heard that this organization will go on this morning. And he was so passionate and eager to attend. But unfortunately, other things have taken him out of this program. But he sends a lot of his felicitations and greetings to the organizers, and particularly he mentioned to me that he wished to have been here because of the panel, the type of people that you have gathered to discuss the matter. So please accept his apology, but he has promised to be part and parcel of this discussion on TV. So you will be very sure, and you can be very sure by this time he's watching it. Ladies and gentlemen, everything in this country is negotiable except the performance of football. In this country called Ghana, if there is anything that happens, anything that will happen, anything that has happened, you can always negotiate. But when it comes to football, and especially the performance of our national team, there is no negotiation about it. Ghanaians are so passionate about football to such an extent that when it comes to football, we forget about our tribes, we forget about our political affiliations, we forget about our peerism, we forget about our chronism, and we all unite as one. It has not happened in any of the sporting disciplines except for football. Indeed, when you come to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, we have been tagged as a football ministry for a very long time. But the truth of the matter is that well over 70% of the resources of the ministry is spent in other sports. But the fact that the interest and passion of Ghanaians is on football, anytime there's expenditure on football, there is more attention to football. And because it is unnegotiable in terms of performance, it presumes that we need to put huge investment into it. We need to invest in infrastructure. We need to invest in personnel. We need to invest in systems, structures, processes, and procedures. We need to invest in promotion and marketing. The issue for which we are sitting here is the aspect of personnel, bonuses, and appearances. Personnel motivation is very paramount for performance. Motivation can be both intrinsic and extrinsic, we all know. In some countries or in some jurisdictions, merely wearing the national colors is enough motivation. In our part of the world, particularly in Ghana, it may not be enough. And that may not be the fault of the footballer or the professional, but it may also be the systems and the culture of our people. And therefore, we need to invest not just in the intrinsic motivation, but also to invest in the intrinsic motivation that has to do with the bonuses and appearances. I would therefore say that there's almost a certainty. There's a certainty about the payments of bonuses and appearances and making people happy to be able to perform. The fundamental questions that we need to address actually is the quantity. How much should be the bonuses and appearances? How much? Because it seems to be a bottomless pit. We don't know the minimum, and we don't know the maximum. But we do know that there are some fundamental factors that need to be taken into consideration. Economic, social, belief, appearance, and so on and so forth. We need to ask the question, what should be the structure? Because in most cases, when you look at even what we give to our players in terms of appearance and bonuses, compared to other jurisdictions, and when they appear in terms of their teams, their foreign teams that they play, what we give seems to be a peanut. But we have to look at it in terms of our context, economic context. What should be the structure? What should be the sources of funds? And how sustainable will these funds be? It is my anticipation that the panel so gathered here will address these questions. For us as a ministry, we are looking at business, sports purely as business. And therefore, we are moving completely away from the normal business of looking at sports as recreational purposes to looking at sports as business. So if it is a business, what it means is that we have to look at the whole value chain. We have to look at the structure of our teams. We have to look at the composition of our teams. We have to look at the management of our teams, and so on and so forth. So that it will call for not just patriotic support, but call for the necessary investment. Because the mere structure of the composition of the team, the management, can either attract investment or disperse investments. We need to make our games attractive. We are in a hurry to send our players out of this country. But what we need to know, and I know that there are managers of the football here, that the internal clubs needs to be strengthened to be able to make the football attractive for all of us. Again, for us as a ministry, we are providing a direction of the policy of sports in this country. We have had a national sports policy that has been sitting on our desk for well over 30, 40 years. We are reviewing that policy to give direction to sports, particularly football and other very teaching sports that we think we have comparative advantage. Supporting this policy document will be a proper legislative instrument that will regulate many other sporting activities, including even the purposes for which we are here, bonuses, appearances, and other things. The legislation will look at that. But in looking at this legislative framework, we are so cautious about the independent nature of our football federations. But we are also aware that the national teams are the bona fides of the state. Indeed, we are looking at the sustainability of funding these things in terms of bonuses and appearances, and therefore, the ministry is looking forward to establish what we call the sports fund. This sports fund has been a theory for a very long time, and we are pushing it. We are in discussion with cabinet, and very soon we will have a direction so that it will substantiate all that we have. We are talking about specific incentives for corporate organizations that will support sports. We know that there are corporate organizations that have been supporting over the years, but they will need specific support in terms of incentives, which we are negotiating with cabinet, and very soon there will be a direction to that. I will not want to take a lot of your time because I know the discussion would go on, and when the discussion proceeds, we'll be at the backdrop and we'll be listening to it. And at the end of the day, we expect that will be a comprehensive report that will be submitted to us, and we act through the report in terms of the direction of Carter 2022. So I wish to congratulate the organizers for this forum and to thank you very well for making this a possibility. Thank you very much, audience, for also listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Alhaji M. Sani Adams is the head of policy coordination, monitoring, and evaluation at the Ministry for Youth and Sports. He's sitting in for the Honorable Minister, Mustafa Yusuf. Thank you very much, sir. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of a few dignitaries here this morning. DCOP Lydia Donko is the Director General, Police Professional Standards Bureau of the Ghana Police Service. She loves sports, and is the chairperson of the Police Ladies FC. Thank you very much for joining us here this morning. Frederick Latte Otu is Ghana Taekwondo President. He's also here with us this morning. Rita Ofe Asari, she's also here with us this morning. Abdul Yati is also joining us here this morning. We have representatives from the National Sports Authority. They are here with us. We also have reps from the Ghana Olympic Committee who have joined us here this morning. We have friends of the media, Jerome Mochi, and we have Graphic, Ghana Web, Ghanaian Times, CTTV, GTV, GBC, Sports24Ghana.com, Class Media Group, and GhanaSoccerNet.com. We appreciate your presence here this morning. Before we get into the discussion proper, where I would introduce our guest speaker to deliver a paper, it is quite interesting what Ghanaians think about the national team and how much we give them consistently. Bring Back the Love suddenly appeared in football circles, and particularly during the Black Stars games, because Ghanaians had become indifferent towards the senior national team. A cocktail of issues brought us to this point. Key amongst them was Ghana's monumental failure at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. This left Ghanaians questioning the commitment of the players to the national cause, especially when they held the nation to ransom, demanding payment of appearance fees of $100,000 before playing their final group game against Portugal. Did the players err by demanding what was due them? Was it their fault that they had been pampered over the years by paying huge appearance fees? Was it their fault that they also demanded what was due them because in previous World Cups, their teammates also received same? When did Ghanaians realize the payment of appearance fees defeated the spirit of patriotism and the national service call on Black Stars players? Were Ghanaians only angry because government paid $100,000 to players after a disappointing World Cup? because in previous World Cups, $50,000 and $75,000 appearance fees were paid to the Black Stars players. What went wrong in 2014? Another World Cup is on the horizon, and the phrase, "we are not in normal times," is on the lips of Ghanaians. And with the nation still reeling from the effects of COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war, how would paying another $100,000 sound in the ears of Ghanaians for a country that is seemingly broke? If we all agree the players must be paid for their services to the nation, how much is too much? How much is too little? Can we sustain the payment of huge sums of money to our senior national teams at every major tournament? These thought processes informed our decision to be here this morning to find a solution to the culture of money for motivation for our senior national team. We have assembled a fine team of experts who will be taking us through this particular topic for discussion today. Before I introduce our guest speaker, let's take a look at what happened from 2016 down to 2014. Let's take a trip down memory lane and see how the Black Stars have fared at various World Cups.
The Black Stars of Ghana first appeared at the World Cup.
So before we join the feed, this is the maiden edition of the Esports Summit.
After several attempts, despite being considered.
This is the maiden edition of the Esports Summit, and I would like to say this event is live on ETV Ghana. We're also live on our Facebook pages. We're also live on the Ghana Web streaming portal. So Ghana Web is streaming this particular event live. We'd like to say a big thank you to Ghana Web for joining us. Before we join the feed, let me quickly take you through the profile of our special guest. So, our special guest speaker, is a man of many parts. He's an Akora, a graduate from the University of Ghana with a degree in biochemistry. He later on proceeded to the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration to pursue a program in law. He has 30 years working experience in various managerial roles, and in the field of marketing, he's top of mind when it comes to experts in that industry. He's been the head of marketing at Van FSTC, a marketing manager at Unilever, programs director at Multimedia Broadcasting, general manager for Joy FM, export manager for Maersk Ghana, and he's held various positions in this country across various corporate institutions. He was the managing director of Accra Hearts of Oak, one of the oldest clubs in the world, and has written about 124 newspaper articles and sports documents. He's also been a consultant in strategy, marketing, and business development at the Ghana Football Association. Mr. Neil Armstrong Mortagbe is the man we are talking about. Mr. Armstrong. Mr. Armstrong, please join me as you deliver your paper for this summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raymond. I think it took me by surprise because when I was told about the running order, I was told when I'll be speaking, but I'm also a person of faith. There are different faiths, Islam, Christianity. One of the verses of scripture that came to mind when he invited me here, so impromptu, is the Bible says you must be instant in season and out of season. And therefore, we shall proceed. I don't know whether my presentation is ready or I need to take it from my phone. Sometimes technology has a way of misbehaving at the time you expect it to behave. Bema, are you ready? And I should go on, or I should wait for you? All right, it's just fixing the cable. Those who are people of prayer, pray that it will appear. Yes, but this is a very, I believe, relevant conversation we are having ahead of the World Cup. But you find in my presentation that I may make some references to some of the other national teams. I hold a very strong view that, and I listened to the representative of our honorable minister, and I think something he said actually provoked a small debate in our small circle here. I'll not talk too much about the debate, but it's a concern that has been shared by many people about the extent to which we spend on our football as compared to the other sporting disciplines. There are various schools of thought. Depending on where you draw the line, you would say a lot more is being spent on the other disciplines than on football and vice versa. But I've been in the media and in this space for a very, very long time. And I'll just say that in terms of the recurring expenditures aside of infrastructure and those other parts, recurring expenditures, definitely. I mean, we'll agree that football takes a chunk of the national cake. And I hear my minister's rep saying yes, and that is a fact. He also spoke about comparative advantage, which is a subject that's also very dear to my heart. That there are so many sporting disciplines that we engage ourselves in as a country. But there certainly will be some sporting disciplines that we have comparative advantage in. And I'm happy that at the policy level, it's something that's being discussed. And the prayer is that beyond it being discussed, an action program will be developed that would get actioned. This thing is skipping. All right, I'll come back there. So, comparative advantage is key. So why football? I see football as being one of Ghana's sources of comparative advantage. That's why we spend so much on football. And it's not to say the other disciplines don't deserve resources. But every nation state would need to define what are their sources of comparative advantage. And that is just a small digression from my presentation, but it's got to be situated in the context that there are sporting disciplines in this country that have brought Ghana's name so high. And many a times, people like us lament why they don't get that level of attention. Football is a team event, okay? And so it takes a lot of resources. But long before Ghana qualified for the World Cup, there was a certain Azuma Nelson. There was a DK Poison. There were these athletes who put our name at the zenith of world sport. Ask yourself what investment is being done in those areas. That's a conversation, I believe, for another day. And it would be great if the ministry and ETV and other media partners here can put together a dialogue on Ghana sports financing. Where are our sources of comparative advantage? Because once we establish those places or those points, it becomes easy to determine what should be spent and what shouldn't be spent. We are talking about bonus structures. We are talking about appearance fees. But look at countries like Jamaica. If you go to any World Athletics event, you will see Jamaica in the sprints. It's a source of comparative advantage. You will see Kenya in the long distance and middle distance. It's a source of comparative advantage. If you go to cricket, you see an India, you see a Pakistan. When it comes to Africa, you see a South Africa, you see a Kenya. Sources of comparative advantage. So the point being made here is that at the level of the ministry, if there is a unit looking at policy, then there's relevance in having a conversation on which sports hold our sources of comparative advantage as a nation. Not every sport would be there. And that doesn't mean the other sports should not be engaged in. But if we want to make a mark on the world stage. We can't continue sending teams to tournaments where we know they are not going to perform. Again, I said it's a conversation for another day. But the comparative advantage that our minister's rep spoke about is what evoked my sharing this small digression to this house. So let's get back to bonus structures of the national teams. I'll give a short historical perspective and then point to a point in our development as a nation where we had a dramatic shift in bonuses. And I'm happy that Ajuman Bedu is here. And, I see Abdul, I see Papse, I see quite a number of friends from the media who followed our development as far as the bonus structures of our national teams are concerned. And when it is that we get into the conversation, I'm sure they would share some very, very useful perspectives. I can't claim to know the full history of our bonus structures, but we know what persisted to some extent before what I call the dramatic shift. I speak also to a subject I've titled Equitable Spread. How does it spread across the various national teams? How is it always Black Stars, Black Stars, Black Stars, Black Stars? Where can we situate the Black Stars in our conversation such that, for instance, whatever they bring in could not only be for them alone, but could be for those who can't attract? Because everywhere you have an attractant, and then you have those who consume what the one attracting would support it to consume. We talk about sustainability, and I'll not repeat a few of the things that, sorry, the name again is Alhaji Sani. Yes, I keep saying minister's rep. I don't think it's very polite. So Alhaji Sani, I would reference you as Alhaji Sani. There is another Alhaji Sani I know, though, who was in Accra Hearts of Folk, who is a Hearts of Folk person, but let's not go there. The Kotogo people are all over the place. Fabulous. And then I end with a question, what next? Because for me, every conversation must result in some action. We've had so many conversations as a nation. We talked about the sports fund, talked about the sports bill. It's been forever. The sports fund, talk, forever. So what next? There will be some action steps that I will suggest to the conversation, and I believe that we shall have a useful outcome. So pre-2005, rewards for our national teams were largely funded from donations from corporate bodies, and also to some extent the national kitty. Notable among those corporate bodies who would usually make a donation would be Guinness, quite notable in that enterprise. But these rewards were meager. Motivation was virtually intrinsic, so the pride of playing for Ghana, that was the main motivation. And it still is a motivation, I believe, and the players here would attest to that fact. But if you listen to the lamentations of past national team players, you realize that apart from that intrinsic motivation, there needed to be some pecuniary, some tangible something in their fingers or in their hands. That would be a reward. We can't reward to the highest extent, but at least something that says we appreciate the sacrifices you make for your national teams. And I may speak both Black Stars and other football teams or sports people. So everybody makes a sacrifice. The question is, how do we reward or honor that sacrifice? Do we have the resources to honor this sacrifice? Is it a bottomless pit or is it a finite quantity or amount of money? Up to 2007, 2009, the Liberian national team had never had a sponsor. So how were they being rewarded? And then they got a sponsor, Celcom. We did a FIFA project there and got them $500,000. And the dynamics just changed. So money has a role to play, whilst the intrinsic motivation also has its role to play. But if you listen to our former national team players, especially those who are not part of, let's call it, the post-2005 era, their lives are not to the levels where you expect people who have sweated and bled for this nation should be. It's pathetic. We recently said goodbye to Abu Moro. Pathetic. You know, you can mention so many examples. There are those who say, oh, they didn't live their lives, so yeah, you can be judgmental, but we all have our faults. There's no net that takes care of them. And that's why the case for this bonus, I always say there is a case. And beyond making that case is, what next could we do, apart from giving the bonuses? What else could we do for our sports people? How do they manage their lives after the days playing? Because that, for me, is where the challenge is. Is there conversation for putting some of those resources into a place, I don't know what to call it, that helps them with sustainable livelihood after playing, after indulging in the sport? Rather than you put the money in the pocket, he can't use it for anything. He will chill, he will blow time, he will buy cars, and the cars will crash. And then he becomes a pauper. These are the thoughts that engage my mind when I hear of these lamentations. But in 2005, perhaps he was the vice president, I think, at the time, or about that, we got Goldfields Ghana Limited to sponsor the Black Stars for $3 million United States dollars. And that's what I call the dramatic shift, because that's when we started looking at bonuses of the quantums that we heard about, culminating in 2014, money flying to Brazil. You know, and people would speak derogatorily about it, but I make no apologies to say that we didn't start carrying money in planes in 2014. It's been there. The best is to put the money in a diplomatic pouch, and it's there. Bonus cash, 220,000 euros, South Africa qualifier. We beat Bafana, they pay cash. How did the money get there? Either it went to the bank with so many charges, or it went in a diplomatic pouch. I'm not saying that I'm just saying what has happened before. Mr. Foreman is asking Papsi, how did the money get there? Those of us who know, we know. But the sponsorship changed the dynamic. And the bonuses for the teams increased exponentially. I mean, my friend Larry Kingston will tell you, for example, that there was a donation from Guinness before we played that game in Congo. I think $100 per player. Goldfields entered the fray, $4,000 times 40. That's the dramatic shift. And when you get to that level, it becomes difficult to come down. I mean, you are enjoying something at this level. One generation enjoys it. Another generation comes, why shouldn't they feel like enjoying it? And we don't go back. We always go forward. So 4,000 became 8,000, became 10,000. World Cup 06, thereabouts. World Cup 2010, go higher. 2014, 100,000 United States dollars, and we kissed the money in Brazil. Somebody say, why am I making light of it? The fact of the matter is that the money was kissed. It's a fact. We saw it. But why wouldn't the money be kissed? It was a Photoshop. John Bedu said it was a photo. It was a contrived picture. But if you sweat and bleed the way these boys bleed, and you see that money, you will kiss it. If it's your brother who is playing, and he gets injured and comes home, and you are taking him from one herbalist to another herbalist, from one hospital to another hospital, when you see that bonus, you will kiss it. So let's not judge them. They play. When they are on that field of play, the whole nation stops. And when they win, it's like everybody contributed. Even when we won in South Africa, they were calling us the Black Stars of Africa. Comparative advantage. They didn't say Black Stars of Ghana. They said Black Stars of Africa. Can you quantify the value that performance makes on this nation? There is peace at home. NDC MPP, there is peace. Muslim, Christian, there is peace. In the charismatic where there's a fight, there is peace. A home where the man is NDC and the woman is MPP, there is what? Peace. Why? The Black Stars won. They beat Nigeria to qualify for Qatar 2022 against all odds. And everywhere became quiet. That is the power of the national team of Ghana, whether we like it or not. It is a power that we went to Germany in 2006, and the immigration regulations and procedures were relaxed. Why? Because Germany was hosting the World Cup. And you go through the checkpoint, and you are wearing Ghana colors, like Die Hard are wearing the Ghana colors. They say, you from where? I say, from Ghana. They say, Ghana, good team, good team. Pass. They don't even check your bags. That is the power of the national team. It's important that we situate our conversation with this in mind. So much is spent on tourism, and I'm not disrespecting any expenditure on these other areas of our national life. But trust me, sports, it moves nations. And when the sport is as big as football, it controls emotions. All right? Otherwise, why is it that every FA president of this country has met the president of the republic and some others haven't met? Because the politicians know the power of this game called football. They invest in it because they know what it can do or cannot do. They put money behind supporters' unions, hundreds of thousands of United States dollars to South Africa to have our colors in the stands because our national team is playing in the World Cup. It's a source of comparative advantage. So we must spend on it, yes. The question is, while spending on it, how does our spend on it now inure to the rest of the national teams and our sports? So I have a concept I call Corporate Ghana Sports. If you look at it as a company, where do we place football? All these things that football does for us as a nation. And that's why when things go wrong, the whole nation is in an uproar. When it goes well, we are all happy. Okay? A sport where the emotions of then maybe about 2010, how many was our population? Perhaps you are the statistician. Now we are 30 million, eh? So back then we could have been maybe like 21 or 22. 22 million people's emotions, they hinge on a penalty kick against Uruguay. The emotions of a nation, all right, were determined by one penalty kick that hit the crossbar. And up to today, some people will not forgive my friend, Asa. But he's Ghana's record goal scorer, matter of fact. And that is the power of our national team. I could take you so many examples of how my going to an African country and just saying I'm from Ghana has opened doors for me. I worked with FIFA for 7 years as a marketing consultant, and we know where we've been. When you mention Ghana, the thing is Black Stars. They don't see anything. They see Black Stars, they see Abedi Pele. You go to the Arab Gulf, they see Mohamed Polo. They will mention names for you. These are Black Stars players. So as we have our conversation on funding, sustainability, I'm happy that we keep these things uppermost in our minds. It's like I'm making a case for Ghana football. But it's beyond Ghana football. It's for every person who wears the national colors, be you in football or anywhere else. You deserve to be looked after. So it's to establish the point that as for the appearance and the bonus, wherever it is, Black Stars, Black Meteors, Black Queens, who actually qualified for the World Cup before the Black Stars, there is a case. And the Black Queens qualified on virtually no reward. I stand to correction. So I summarize this page by saying, yes, intrinsic motivation is important. But with all the things I've described about what football and Ghana sports does for us as a people, there is a case to be made for spending. The question is, how much? We must spread the wealth. The Black Stars enjoy a lot, understandably so and necessarily so. But it's important that we look at the entire scope of our national teams because they end up feeding into the Black Stars. In some countries today, there's equal bonus for male and female. I think United States is one of the clear examples. Others are coming up. I'm not sure we are there yet as a people, but I'm sure it's something that we can aspire to in the long term. But about the fact that every national team deserves an appearance fee, there can be no question. And every national team deserves a bonus, there can be no question. And every athlete of Ghanaian extraction participating in international competition on behalf of Ghana deserves the same treatment. Comes back to where? Policy, Alaji. If that policy is in place, the next thing becomes how do we fund it? And it reduces the debate. And part of that debate I started earlier was the comparative advantage debate, where all federations are called into a conference and say, we don't mean to disrespect any sporting discipline, but the fact of the matter is that as a nation state, we have to define what makes us comparatively at an advantage. So we can go to international tournaments and win medals. People are winning swimming medals. We have a family who have taken up swimming like their personal interest. But what about at the national level? So many water bodies in this country. Name many lakes. Only last, today is when? What's today? Today is Wednesday. Only Sunday I was on the River Fram, one of the tributaries of the Volta. Some young boys were diving. Did have this deep diving? Yes. And then look at our coastline from Aflao all the way to the Côte d'Ivoire side. We can't put people into swimming in the Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, all this water. It's a question that borders on policy. And what have we identified as our sources of comparative advantage? Boxing, I've mentioned it earlier. We need to identify these ones. And then the others would also be growing along. Recently, I saw a lighter note. There was some Chaskele tournament going on. Is it Chaskele? You know Chaskele? Is that Chaskele? You know, it's our version of cricket. If you get a number of countries playing Chaskele, it becomes a Commonwealth sport. Others have taken some kind of sport to those places, and they are enjoying. We go and play them. How do we sustain this funding? I hold the view that Black Stars should be used as the cash cow of Ghana football. And the cash cow is a concept derived from the Boston Consulting Group matrix. In that matrix, you've got cash cows, you've got dogs, you've got brands. Okay, it's a way of handling various brands. So let's say Black Stars is our cash cow. That's the one that attracts the money. There are some that they are dogs. They are just eating, because they don't attract anything. The one who attracts brings, so that the rest can also enjoy. But usually it's been whatever comes for the Black Stars is for the Black Stars. My suggestion is we should start looking at it that way. If the Black Queens cannot attract sponsorship, why do we leave all the money with the Black Stars? It's a conversation, it's a debate, it's a discussion. But for me, if I look at it as a marketing person, this thing attracts cash. This cannot attract cash between now and the next 5-10 years. How do we use some of that to support? It's done. I worked in Unilever. It's done. Key Soap will bring money. They will invest it in Royco. Yes. It's one whole. And corporate bodies should be impressed. We talked about incentives. The incentives must work. And the state, I said earlier, must see football and other targeted sports as a source of national competitive advantage, and not only see them, invest in them. When we see the power of Egyptian club football, the serious investment from the state. As an example, it's about what we see our football and sports being to us as a people. When we see it that way, we will invest in it. And it gives well-being to so many other people. I come to warn me. I've almost finished. To be successful, Ghana has to be strategic and deliberate. So strategic and what? We must intentionally invest in our sports. Intentionally call corporate Ghana. And I think it's been done before. A meeting, I think a breakfast meeting. Corporate Ghana was invited. I think it was at the seat of government, was it? Yes. And presentations were made. We set a certain target. It was for the Black Stars. But can it be done for the rest of our sports? And that's why there's always these Black Stars. I understand Black Stars. It does so much. So yes, it's worth it, but beyond the Black Stars. Strategic and deliberate. Stakeholder engagement key. I've spoken about sustainable funding structure. And by stakeholder engagement, the athletes themselves are part of those stakeholders. Many times we leave them out of the conversation. They are the key actors. Without the footballers, there's nothing. And yet a lot of times, we, the people who wear coat and tie, we go and talk and try to decide for them. and you decide for them without relevantly consulting them, they will hold you to account at the right time, the day before the match. What bonus are we taking to the Africa Cup? If you did there, you went and took decision, they were not there. So stakeholder engagement is key. Sustainable funding structure. I know there's so much pressure on the national incomes, but we need to find a sustainable way. I've talked of deliberate action. Let's talk. We talk plenty in our country, and I make no apologies for saying that. It's a matter of fact. Let's talk more deliberate action. Government and the FA collaborate effectively. No unnecessary quarrels and who did this, who did that, who is the owner. Yes, national team, bona fide property of the nation state called Ghana. Who manages the national team? The Ghana Football Association. So stakeholders need to engage. When we did Goldfields in 2005, perhaps they will bear me witness. We were working with Honorable Yosafo Mafo and Obi Amwa. Tight. To the extent that the day the sponsorship was announced, Honorable Yosafo Mafo sat in the chair together with Brendan Walker, Managing Director of Goldfields, Kwesi Nyantechi, President at the time. They were all there. There was that collaboration. There was that tight fit. And when we were accounting to Goldfields for whatever was being spent on the national team, we sent accounts to the ministry. Collaboration needed. And on that note, I'd like to thank all of us for taking time to listen to this quiet man. Share some thoughts on an effective funding model for our national teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neil Armstrong Motagbe. He's a marketing consultant par excellence, and he has vast knowledge when it comes to sports and marketing. Thank you very much for your presentation. Right about now, we'll zoom straight into the panel discussion. And to help us with the panel discussion this morning, I have one of the seasoned sports administrators here in Ghana, an astute sports administrator. He's been part of the Ghana Football Association as an executive committee member until recently when he decided to move up when he contested to become president of the Ghana Football Association. He was management committee chairman of the Black Stars at the 2006 World Cup and the 2010 World Cup, vice president of the Ghana Football Association under former president Kwesi Nyantechi. He's a former director of Accra Great Olympics. Mr. Fred Papo is our panelist, and Mr. Fred Papo, please take your seat. Growing up, each time you stayed up to watch an Azuma fight, you would always find this face on TV. He's a senior lecturer at the Ghana Law School and currently serves as the national president of the Boys Brigade. He has done a lot of humanitarian work. He's a vegan broadcast journalist, former chairman of the Ghana Boxing Authority, served as co-vice chairman for the Jamefe Presidential Commission on the 2014 Brazil World Cup debacle. He's currently the legal marketing consultant for the Ghana Boxing Authority. He's a family man blessed with 4 children. Mr. Moses Fuamoinin is a panelist for today. He's a World Cup winner. Won the Under-20 World Cup after converting that crucial penalty kick in the Egypt tournament in 2019. Born in Brekum in the Brongahafo region. Okay. Born in Sekwa in the Brongahafo region. Played for Berlin FC, later signed for Brekum Chelsea, played for Brekum Arsenal, and was part of the Ghana Premier League All-Star team in 2007. He later signed for Kotoko on a season-long loan before he moved abroad. Played for Udinese Calcio and played for Hellas Verona as well. played for other teams as well, and also made sure he made his mark when it came to the national team level. Played at the under 20 level, played at the under 23 level, and played for the senior national team. This player we are talking about made sure Ghana had smiles on her face in the 2009 FIFA Under 20 World Cup final against Brazil. And everybody remembers him for taking off his shirt after he converted the final kick. Ajiman Bedu now plays for Accra Great Olympics. Mr. Ajiman Bedu is our panelist for today's summit. Mr. Neil Armstrong, you would kindly join us in the seat. Ohene Bampo Brenya is the presenter of Happy Sports, which airs on Happy 98.9 FM from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every morning. Ohene Bampo Brenya would be our moderator for this session, and he has very important questions for our panelists this morning. Ohene Bampo Brenya, please take your seat. Before we get into the discussion for today, I would like to acknowledge the presence of a few important dignitaries. Mr. Ernest Boateng is the CEO of Global Media Alliance and proudly the brain behind what we are doing here today. Global Media Alliance Broadcasting has Happy FM, ETV Ghana, and the YFM Triangle as part of the GMA brand. Mr. Ernest Boateng is here with us. Thank you very much, sir, for making this happen. Mr. Martin Ankra, Head of Business Development, Global Media Alliance, and Perception Management International. Martin, if you're here, a big thank you for joining us. Timothy Kakari is Director of Broadcasting, GMA BC. Tim, thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon. We'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors. We'd like to say a big thank you to Accra City Hotel for hosting us here this afternoon. We'd also like to say a big thank you to Perception Management International. The lovely screens you see here, kind courtesy Perception Management International. We'd also like to say a big thank you to our media partners, Happy 98.9 FM, ETV Ghana, and YFM, as well as Ghana Web. Before we begin the discussion, I promised you I was going to play a video. I was going to take you down memory lane. Okay. Then I think right about now, I'll hand over to Ohene Bampo Brenya, if it's here. So we begin the discussion on the topic, national team financing, the bonus and appearance fee structure, and its sustainability. Ohene Bampo Brenya.
Raymond Nyawado, thank you very much. I would also like to thank our host. Advan Mate is the MD of Accra City Hotel. Thank you very much, sir, for making this event possible. And to our panelists, I say thank you very much. To our audience, thank you very much for coming. We are live on ETV Ghana, live on Happy FM, live on our social media platform, and also live on Ghana Web. So you can join the conversation across the world on our social media platform. My name once again is Ohene Bampo Brenya. And to our panelists, we go straight to the conversation. And I'll start with someone who has been in the thick of affairs before, knows it all, experienced it all, before we even start the whole conversation. I'll go to Fred Papo for him to kickstart the whole conversation. Mr. Fred Papo is also the former Vice President of the Ghana Football Association and also the former Chair of the Black Stars Management Committee. So he's best fit for this conversation. Sir, thank you very much for coming and welcome to this very first edition of eSports Summit.
Thank you very much, and it's obviously my greatest pleasure to be part of this very important forum that you've created. I'm also more humbled to be on a panel with these high-flying sports individuals who who portray excellence in all their fields, and as well being a part of this great audience. So I look forward to a very important event. Coming to the topic, I think it's a very important topic. It's an issue that we all have to grapple with, and I believe it's about time we touch on the issue. Definitely, I'm sure some of the recommendations or comments that may be passed here may not be necessarily palatable, but I believe whatever recommendations or anybody espouses will be born out of commitment and the need to see our national teams thrive in the most sustainable way. So that's the angle from which I'm sure we are all going to look at it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your opening comments. Let me go to senior counsel, senior law lecturer, and also a senior colleague in this noble profession, sports journalism. I call him Brafo Amoni, and he gave me a prophecy whilst I started my morning show on RPFM, and I still play that soundbite up to today. Prophet, senior prophet. Amoni, thank you very much for being a part of
Well,
the
I'll
discussion.
give you the prophecy concerning the Black Stars course just before we leave for the
Absolutely.
World Cup. So remind me. Well, first of all, let me just congratulate, your companies that run the television station, and my good friend here. He's made a lot of money, but he's not shared it with me.
Mr. Boateng, you
Mr. Boateng, exactly. I used to sit with him and do lots of things together. Let me congratulate you for this forum. And just remind all members present in the media and those of you who are watching us live that the Commission of Inquiry that was established under the Constitution. One of the recommendations that we made was that the recommendations of the Commission, there should be stakeholder meetings held regularly. And that was accepted by the government white paper.
White paper.
So this particular recommendation has the status of law. And I am happy to notice that in a way you have not said you are fulfilling what was recommended, but it is important that the sports ministry realizes that there's a mandatory provision in respect of the recommendation of the commission that such stakeholder engagements take place. So what you are doing, you are fulfilling the recommendations of a commission of inquiry established under the Ghanaian constitution. So congratulations to what you're doing. The other thing I want to do, and I think when we finish, we probably all have to acknowledge and congratulate the Ghana Football Association. But for all the hard work, we wouldn't have been in Qatar, and we probably wouldn't have been having this discussion. So can we hear it for the Ghana Football Association? Let's put our hands together for the FA. I mean, it takes a lot of hard work to get us where we got to, and I particularly want to comment, Papse, you made a lot of mention about him, but he's a huge institutional memory. The qualification didn't just happen with Otto and the other coaches who joined and the new management of the Black Stars. It started when we started the qualification. So I want to congratulate all the other members of the Football Association, the Black Stars Management Committee that have led us to where we are. Those will be my initial comments, and I'm hoping, we've done a lot of talking in Ghana already, and the law is in the book that I'm holding and carrying, and the government white paper. For once, let's implement, and I'm hoping that you as journalists will ensure that whatever decisions and recommendations were made in, the Commission's report and accepted in the white paper would be confirmed. We can't just go on talking, and hopefully the ministry will carry that from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to him. And I'll move on to Ajiman Bedu, who is a principal actor on the field of play. He's a former member, or still, since he's not retired, he's still a member of the Black Stars. Anytime he's called upon, he would gladly wear the national colors again. Ajiman Bedu, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. I'm very privileged to be here to sit with these dignitaries here and in front of these dignitaries to share my ideas about this World Cup bonuses with the national team. So it will be exciting to hear a lot from these dignitaries and to take note of it before we start the World Cup.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Ajiman Bedu. Neil Armstrong has done his presentation, and we'll get into the pros and cons of the presentation. So Neil, thank you very much for the presentation. More of an academic paper on the subject matter. What should we expect from you on this panel?
Well, I don't know whether to say point of interest. It was not only an academic paper. It's an action-oriented paper. Academic papers have a very strong theoretical base.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried to draw some history in the presentation, but more importantly, to look at the actions. What do you expect what is to be expected from me on this panel is more of the same, talking towards action. All right, our council spoke about the fact that there is a government, there's a whole lot of resource was spent throughout that process. White paper published, go into that white paper and you see so many solid recommendations. The question is, what effect has been given to them in terms of action? And that is the bane of this nation. And I don't make any apologies for it. We talk plenty. It's a matter of fact. And I talk about this passionately, but it's true. How many times must we keep talking about the same thing? You know, I think that as a people, we are not angry enough to take action on the things that we must take action. And I just hope that this forum builds up that positive anger to take us to a place where we have less of these conversations or debates and have a structure and a policy in place that is well structured, well self-sustaining, and then we spend time talking about other problems. That's what you should expect from me on this panel.
Thank you very much, Neil. And I start off with Fred Papo, who has an institutional memory of football and its governance. One may ask, if you're a novice, monitoring from wherever you are, how did we get here in terms of appearance fees and bonuses? Because, as far back as 1996, 97, some would argue that the Blaster was not as, well-resourced as it is today. So what changed the game for the Black Stars, in your own opinion and observation?
Okay, thank you very much. I think as far as my memory will serve me, I believe bonuses to national teams, and like Neil indicated in his presentation, as much as possible in my presentation, sitting here on my contributions, I'll be looking at the national team in a more generic view. I know we are concentrating on the Black Stars, but I believe part of the issue of not concentrating every resource on the Black Stars is for those of us who talk about the game and then watch the game and do everything. When we are talking, we should try as much as possible to have a broader view of the national team. It's a national team, so some of my contributions will also relate to the Black Satellites, sure, the Black Queens, and the rest. As far as I recall, I believe bonuses to all the national teams have been paid fairly regularly, way before we even came into office in 2005, if I may recall. The issue of appearance fees, there again, I believe it started right on the eve of our World Cup campaign in 2006. That was when we qualified to our first World Cup. Obviously, that was a very steep learning experience for almost all of us associated with the team at the time. I recall quite frankly, there was this evening in Scotland. We had gone to play a match, and the players asked to speak to us. They sought audience with the management for us to discuss. And then we went into the room, and suddenly they mentioned this animal called appearance fees. So we're like, what's appearance? What are they talking about? Apparently, some of the players had playing mates in other national teams. And it was actually the vogue in those teams, and they had telephone conversations. So they confronted us with the issue, which appeared germane to us because their starting point was that Ghana was going to be given or had been given some amount of money by FIFA for qualifying for the World Cup. So they also felt they were entitled to a certain portion of it as their due. That was the genesis of appearance fees. The actors I don't need to mention, but they are very familiar faces. Now, after quite a lot of discussions, we accepted and said, well, of course, we are just managing the team for the state. So we had to go back to the government and then relay this concern to them. We did, and then the ministry agreed. So we had a very hearty discussion with the boys to agree on the figure. But take note, there was one point I made which I believe we should also consider. The genesis for their request for appearance fee hinged on the fact that the association or Ghana was to gain something from from FIFA. So they should be given a certain percentage of it. So there are two things: gaining something as a nation, and then they asking for a certain percentage of it. So if not for anything at all at the basic level, if you are going for it, they should really talk about appearance fees. That's one point I want to lay on the ground. And then secondly, I think somewhere along the discussion we may come to what quantum or whatever it is. But then it's also, their claim was also that it should be a certain percentage or a certain portion of what we're going to get. So absolutely, it wouldn't make much sense for us to pay more appearance fees than we are getting as a nation for participating in that event. I believe I'm putting the historical perspective in the context, right place yes. to, you know, so that is the origin of appearance fees and bonuses. I haven't dwelt much on the bonuses because it was existing already. But then, going forward, I'm sure we may have to look at certain things or certain factors, even around the payment of bonuses and then the payment of appearance fees, in a manner that will all benefit, not just the players or the technical team or management, but as a nation. It's supposed to be an incentive or a motivation for performance. So definitely we'll need to tweak it in a way which will make it very performance-based. And that is an issue. I don't know whether I'm jumping the gun, but for example, if Generation A go to the World Cup or AFCON or whatever it is, and they get, let's say, just as an example, 20,000 as appearance fees, and then they go all the way up to the finals and win, or they even go to the final and lose, but they got 20,000 cedis as appearance fees. Do we seriously believe that another generation goes to the same AFCON or whatever it is, they get eliminated at the prelims? Do we believe it would have been fair to those who went all the way up there and got 20,000 for these same guys who played just 3 matches and got kicked out, causing a lot of embarrassment to almost all of us, including themselves, to also get about the same amount? These are things that should trigger our thinking, so that in the way we should be able to tweak the appearance fee in such a way that the more you progress or the better you perform, it gives you a certain level of increase along the
performance-based reward.
It should be performance-based. Appearance fees. I do not subscribe to a blanket thing that the moment you appear at the World Cup, then you get 100,000 cedis. You are eliminated after the third match, whilst the whole nation is crying. Up to now, we are still reeling from the loss or the debacle of in Brazil. Then you would have collected your money and gone now. I don't think that is fair, and I'm sure this is something that the players themselves would even understand. Thank you. Okay,
so let me come to someone who spent quite a number of time in investigating or try to understand the event that happened in Brazil 2014 and made some conclusions or some recommendations. Rafo, what's your take on all of this reward structure of a national team and the recommendations you made, and fast forward what we've done actually over the period after your report came out?
I think, you make a very good point by using the word reward scheme. Let's all get it, there's a distinction between the bonuses, which is, and normally you have the adjective winning bonuses attached to it, because people must win in order to have a bonus. And then there's also something they call qualification bonus. That is the qualification, pursuant to the tournament itself. And then there's the appearance fee, which relates to what FIFA gives. If you look at the pages of our, the report that we presented, we gave a history of FIFA paying appearance fee. It was supposed to be in respect of teams that have qualified and to ensure that they bring quality to the, and the top class players who are coming, because all of them are professionals. And don't forget that all these professionals are contracted to their teams. So for them to leave their clubs and all of that and come to the tournament, you got to pay something for it. 2, FIFA is also benefiting from sponsorship. And Ghana, the teams that qualify are all members of FIFA. So you would suppose that the sponsorship monies around the World Cup, and that's the highest flying tournament the world over. So out of the money, a certain percentage is allocated for teams that have qualified for preparations. I think there's an amount for preparations, and then the appearance fee is different.
So you get 2 million for preparations.
Preparation, and the rest of it is for just being present for qualifying. All right? And that's proper. One of the things that we discovered was that in doing the analysis, it would seem as if it was only all about, appearance fee. Ghana received 2006, we got 6 million. 2010, we got 11 million. And then 2014, I think, let me just check the statistics. We had 8 million since 2010, and 2014 we had 11 million. All right? We had 11 million because in 2010, I think we got to the quarterfinals, so there were certain additions that were made. All right? Now, the truth of the matter is, we've appeared, so let's take the money. Really? There's some expenditure that goes to secure our qualification. So one of the things that the Commission came up with is, let's not reckon all of it in terms of, this is what has come to Ghana, so the FA or any particular institution has got a right to share all of it. What we discovered was that the state has invested in all the players, their preparation, training. Indeed, the data shows that for one single qualifying match for the Black Stars for a World Cup, we spent close to $1 million. That's a lot of money if you look at all the matches that we played in 2006 and 2010 and 2014, So the state pumps in money. So the view is, don't just look at it as money coming in to the FA so they have a right to it. That's the first point that we're going to establish. 2, we also said, let's have the broad principles that should govern these monies and the way they are shared. 1, players play for their nation. They wear the national colors with pride. So we are incentivizing you, but we want you to play for Ghana not because you're going to receive money, but because you are proud of the shirt. That's one principle. The other principle was this. Look, even the Bible says this. The laborer must earn his keep. So if the boys go and stand on the pitch and they play and they perform, then they've got to be remunerated. So there were 2 principles that we agreed should be present. And then you've got to combine and weigh them as you go along. I'm sure that as the discussion proceeds, we will look at how we've got to structure the framework, but in the payment. But in terms of, first of all, what is bonus, what is winning bonus, what is qualification bonus, and what is appearance fee, I think what, as a committee, the commission we came up with is what I have set out. In summary, appearance fee comes from FIFA, has to do with having qualified. There'll be money also for preparation. Bonuses, winning bonuses have been paid. Osei Kofi tells me about bonuses that were paid long ago, and some of the anecdotes around it is very funny. So we've always paid winning bonuses to our teams. So that has been in existence for a long time. I think the issue in terms of the bonuses and the appearance fee will be the quantum, how we quantify it, and under the conditions under which we pay. I'm sure that as we get into the details, I'll be able to tell you what sort of structures that we put in place and what should influence what we're doing for Qatar 2022. I can just end on this little note. Let's learn the right lessons. That's the only thing I will say. Let us have the policy framework which has been delivered by the Commission's report and agreed, and for which there's a white paper. Let us not reinvent the wheel, so that the principles and the policies that were agreed, let us just implement them as they are, because that is the law. We might tweak it a bit just to help and adjust it to the circumstances, because clearly there's more money now coming in because of appearance, in 2022. But I think the underlying policy framework has not changed, and that is in the Commission's report. I'm hoping that we will not try and change and reinvent the wheel.
All right, thank you very much, Balafour Moeni. In many of the discussions, the players who are involved are left out. But fortunately for us, we have Agyemang Badu as part of our panel. Agyemang Badu, do you sometimes get worried when the whole conversation is about you guys are not patriotic enough because you've asked for something you think is due you?
Well, it troubles us a lot because we have the passion for the nation. It's always a privilege to play for the nation because from where I am coming from, the nation have really helped me to get these opportunities in life. So it's always there. But you know, whoever works needs to be paid. That is a fact. And it's not like we don't have passion and we are so money conscious about everything is about money. No, myself like this, if you see any scar on my body, it's because from the national team.
Not from your club side, national team.
For 15 years, I played football. I got injured at Udinese 2018. All the problems I got during my career in the national team is here. Mostly, all the injuries, I treat myself. No insurance. I don't know if you have it, and I never get any advantage from it. Then yeah. I don't know. But for the injuries I have on my leg, meniscus, the scars you can see from my face, everything, I treat myself. The last injury I got from the African Cup, I went back to Udinese and have a treatment. So if I come, it's a privilege to play for the nation. That is an obvious one. But got injury, go back to the club to have treatment there, and you are telling the player not to go for the money he thinks is good for him. I think it's a bit troublesome. Secondly, like how my big boss said, Fred Pablo said, we communicate a lot to the footballers outside there. And
so you know what's happening.
You know exactly what is happening with the other national teams, and at times it also bring a lot of controversy when it comes to the winning bonus, stuff like this. Thirdly, what I can say is mostly we lack communication.
Okay.
It's a key to this kind of problems we are having in the Blasters. Because I remember the 2014 Wahala. We started the communication in Slovenia when we went for that friendly game about the bonuses, because we thought, okay, 2010 the bonus was like 50,000, 20 days was 75. So once after 8 years that we have reached this stage, I think the bonus should gone a bit up for us, because so we had a problem there. We couldn't solve it. Came back to Ghana. We couldn't. Went to Holland for friendly games. We couldn't. In USA for like 2 weeks, we couldn't. And we played our first game before the vice president, Mr. Amisata, may he so rest in peace. Yes, he came there that the cabinet have approved what we are due for, and he was left our 2 games to finish the tournament. So imagine what will happen in camp.
And you had already lost to US by 2-1.
Yes, and we drew with Germany.
Yeah,
so it was obvious that we may come back home without nothing. At that time, we are footballers. We left everything. It was our races to come home to rest, left our family, go back in a month time, and all these controversies were surrounded around us. And it brings so much problems. So the communication too is a key. So all these things, we need to work as a team, communicate, sit down with the gurus of the national teams, the captain, the assistant captain, agreed on this bonus before maybe a month or 2 months before the World Cup. Put it on paper, and everybody will agree. After the 2014, gradually things have really changed. You can see there's no hula baloos about our bonuses, which we have learned a lot from it. But I think the FA, the federation, the ministry should sit down with the players before even the World Cup starts. Else, what will happen in 2014? We may see something like that. But we hope that things have really settled now, and they will sit down with the players and sort all these problems. So communication is a key in this factor as well.
I have a follow-up question, but I want to go to Neil and come back to you on that. I'm thinking, did the Akamenku injury play in your minds when you were negotiating with authorities when it comes to how much was due you?
Oh, I don't think he played a key.
Because he got injured in Holland.
He got injured in Holland against the.
And he missed the World Cup.
He missed the World Cup. Yes, it wasn't a key. Like how I said, the problem with the bonuses started in Slovenia when we had a friendly game against them, and what we were thinking was, okay, 2010 they got this, 2014 the bonus have increased. No, 206 they got this, 2010 is this, and 2014 things have increased. We communicated to a lot of our colleagues outside, and we see what was going on there. And like how I said at first, mostly you don't have insurance. You need to insure yourself. You need to take all these things into consideration. And from there, we decide on what we want. So it's always the problem is the communication, how to communicate with the boys. They are very, very cool guys. They have passion for the game. We love the country. We know where we have gained from the country. Me, from the under 20, I've seen what I've got from football. So I know all my colleagues are like that. But if you don't communicate very well, as always, it will bring problems. So communication is the key in this factor.
Okay, thank you very much, Ajimambedu. Neil, from the outsider's point of view, what do you think is Ajimambedu has spoken about communication, but from your perspective, what do you think is that bottleneck when it comes to money with the national team and the back and forth?
Well, I think, Ajiman, he nailed it when he talked about the communication side. And if you make reference to what I also talked about, I talked about stakeholder engagement and the timelessness of that engagement. If you are having a back and forth about bonuses and it drags all the way to actually within or whilst the tournament is going on, you're definitely going to have a struggle. Especially, and the players sometimes, when I've run a club before, and there are times where you sit with the players and you get the sense that maybe it's from how they've developed. There's a lot of mistrust of officialdom. A player is promised one thing by a management committee member, management of his club or a national team, and it doesn't get paid at the time it's supposed to be paid. And if even it gets paid, it's given to the player with some level of disrespect or disregard for his contribution. So when you have that environment of mistrust and poor communication, it's a recipe for what we observed in 2014. And he did speak about the fact that if we not pick lessons from there to apply them in going forward, and the white paper, like Moses said, is there. It's there in black and white. We are waiting for, we are in what month now? August. August is actually ended. September is tomorrow. So the World Cup starts in November. We are not at the FA, so we can't know what is going on. But the hope is that these lessons that are being shared on this platform will be applied in the conversation with the team ahead of Qatar. It's a fact that before we played Nigeria in those last, the double header, many a Ghanaian had given up on this team. Let's not hide it. So maybe even psychologically, we're not even ready to be talking about bonuses. And then, hey, we play 1-1 goalless draw here. Oh, we are going to Nigeria. We are finished. And we all followed what went on. And then we qualify. So if at the time we're not prepared, even psychologically, there's been enough time from the qualification to now for us to set our house in order, such that we avert any such challenge going forward. Bottleneck, I think I would agree with Ajman when he talks about the communication. And add to that, the level of regard we give to our footballers. I talk as an administrator and talk to players. Many times they feel they are not given the level of regard that they deserve, because without them, I'm not an administrator. What am I administering? There's a game that's being played by key actors. But it's for us to respect everybody in that stakeholder mix and ensure that we do things in time and ahead of time and proactively and with a human face. These players are human beings. Sad. Listening to him talking about treating himself after serving his nation. Of course he would ask for the money to help him treat himself. If I was his brother, I'd say, Master, just can't go hospital. It's life. So let's see them as people with feelings. Yes, the nation has its feelings, but the players also have feelings. And they sweat. They bleed. They get limbs broken. They are key stakeholders in this mix. And we need to accept that fact and work with it to ensure that whatever we decide takes into consideration their interest as well as the total national interest. And like what the song, it's a Ghana song, some line from a Ghana song that whatever way the matter will come, it's the mouth with which you speak it. So you need to speak That means whichever way the matter will come, it's mouth that they used to talk about it.
Well, my brother, I'm not taking your job, but just a quick, insight into some of the things that he, Ajimambidu mentioned. And for a forum of this nature, I think we should be listening more to the players, because at the end of the day, they perform on the field of play. I know, as a matter of fact, lots of the journalists here and those of you who are watching will attest to the fact that there were lots of sponsors for the national teams, some of it being insurance companies. So I'm actually wondering, and maybe Freddie can give us some insight, how come, he gets injured and there can't be a call on the sponsorship from the insurance companies? I just want some information on that, because it adds to the mistrust that he talked about and nearly emphasized. Because if we see the sponsorship outdoor, the insurance companies, Komanini, and at the end of the day, I get injured and nothing happens, then all of us are going to say, really? What's happening here? So maybe we need some insights as to the sponsorship packages, and especially for the insurance companies and the other non-monetary insurance bits around it that are supposed to make sure that these players are comfortable when they're injured. Maybe we need some insight from you.
Maybe Uncle Fred will help us in that regard, but I know that when it comes to international football, for instance, clubs will take care of the players and when they get injured on international duty. But Uncle Fred is the expert on this one, so I would like to hear his take on the injury situation with players.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, when you were very right on that. What usually happens is that we have a situation, especially in Ghana, where most of the players happen to be playing for foreign clubs. So what happens, the moment, they also monitor them. He will tell you, from the day they are released to come to respond to national calls, and the clubs seriously monitor. A player gets an injury, even on the field of play, before you get to the team hotel, the team doctors will be on the phone, trying to assess the situation, and literally, even in most cases, pleading that the player should be released to come back, for them to proceed with their treatment and things like that. It's unfortunate, not only, but I think a few are falling into certain situations, but I'm sure anytime, once we have the insurance cover, and for most engagements that we go, there's an insurance cover. Maybe they should be schooled through the processes of making any claims or whatever. But the thing is that it is the clubs that usually take the lead in looking after the players, because they have invested quite a lot, millions of dollars in the players, so they will not want to risk the players being catered for by other entities elsewhere who they may not necessarily trust. That's the question to that. But talking on the...
I think Ajimambidu wants to make a quick point on that one.
No. I agreed on what he's saying, and I can witness to that one. That's a fact. But what I'm also asking is, even if the clubs cause the player back to go and have a treatment there, there's not any monetary aspect when it comes to the insurance. Because me, I had an insurance in Italy. When I have menisco 2012 at the African Cup, when I went back, they paid me, but they took care of me. So I'm just asking if even the player goes back, if he can make something small, because in the national team, you know that at times when you get injury there and you go, you don't get any bonus from it.
Okay, I do get your point. It's not something small, because it's your due. Once there's an insurance policy or package covering the player, if you go out there and even the club takes care of you, if there are any benefits that should be due you, as per the FA's sponsorship agreement with the insurance company, I believe you should be able to retrieve that. So
it's whose responsibility to tell the player that you need to...
That's what I'm coming to. So what I'm saying is that you did make a mention of the fact about communication. So maybe what will need to be righted or corrected now is for details of these kind of things to be made openly clear to the players, even before the event. Then you know that in the event of this and this is what we are entitled to. These are the processes you have to go through. Yeah. That also, sorry, Bravo.
Yeah, I'm saying that I was just going to summarize, because that goes to exactly something that we must all take away from here. That part of the support for the Black Stars players for Qatar 22 should not just be appearance fee and all of that. The insurance package that ensures that these boys, when they go and they get injured, will not be catered just by their clubs, but also the sponsors around it will be helpful. And the processes for accessing the insurance, that will be helpful. I think that should be a takeaway from here, that we have all agreed that the Football Association, in looking for sponsorship for the Black Stars for the World Cup, Qatar 2022, there was, breakfast and $25 million, all of that. There were insurance companies that were present. So my suggestion is that the insurance companies that are going to support, tell us how much you're putting in and the process by which these Black Stars players can access it. I am confident that if these players know this, then they're not going to charge the country $100,000, because they know that there's also $20,000 available if they get injured. And all of us will see it, and then the processes for accessing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brafo. Back to Neil again. Back to Mr. Fred Papu.
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe we are talking about the issue of communication, so that's quite key, and it behoves on every actor or stakeholder to make sure things are transparent and then open and known to everyone. In this particular context, I don't think we should be talking only about the Black Stars when we're talking about insurance, because I believe most of these companies who sign insurance sponsorship for the FA also do so for the other national teams. Sometimes you sadly hear of, especially the ladies, getting injured and then staying out for quite a lot of time without even any remittance or maintenance during the period of injury. So definitely there are improvements that should be done on that score. Now, talking about quantum and negotiation and things like that, I believe there are two key things. Some of my co-panelists have touched on that. One is the timing. The other aspect is the trust. Of course, communication, we've spoken about it. And then representation. Who represents the players? You see, there's a bit of there's a bit of a challenge when you're talking about representation, especially.
You're talking about the playing body's leadership.
Exactly, the playing body. From the side of the FA or the other side, it's almost always the FA, the ministry, and then if there's a sponsor around who's very dynamic, maybe the sponsor will be there. But more often than not, it's the FA and then the ministry. At least 2 or 3 that I've been involved in. We had the minister and then the chief director plus the FA leadership meeting about 6 or so of the player leadership. Sometimes there's a bit of a problem because you may not even know which player will be in the squad for the tournament. But then you are fairly safe to assume some 2 or 3 senior players may be in the squad. So you meet with them, you do the negotiations, you agree. Well, whatever you conclude at that time, you must make the players know that definitely these will be subject to what is available at the national coffers. So it doesn't mean that if at the meeting stage or the negotiation stage, there's a finality around $60,000 or $40,000 per player, it means definitely that's going to be the case. It could even go to the government and they may increase it, you never know. But at least you make it aware. At such a table, you put all your stakes on the table, that's fine. This is the conclusion, we think this is fair. We are communicating it to the next level, and they will revert to you. That is number 1. Number 2 has to do with the timing is very important, because in normal negotiations, if you don't go into the negotiation at the right time, you will find yourself at the wrong end of the table. For example, if you wait till a day or 2 before the kickoff of the tournament, then you go negotiating with the players, you are definitely going to be in a bad situation. Because if the players say they want 200,000 and you can only afford 100,000, you cannot argue your point, because if they insist that if you don't give us, there's no way we are going to play the match, or there's no way we are going for training. So the timing is very, 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 very key. You must match the timing of the negotiations as to what the players are going to be entitled to make sure that you don't find yourself at the wrong side. Trust is very key. Well, I've not had the experience, at least during our times when there was that much mistrust. I'm sure Ajman Bedu will tell 2010 AFCON in Angola where he was, and even the World Cup before the injury took him out. There was no problem of trust because the players knew the FA at that point and the government or the ministry had been delivering. So whatever you agree upon, fine. But the moment the government side starts reneging on their side of the bargain, these boys will be watching you quite clearly. It will get to a certain point. If you say, okay, we are ready, we'll give you this, we'll pay into your accounts. They don't trust you. So they will insist, we are not accepting anything being paid into our accounts. Let's see the money cash. That was what compelled flights to be commandeered to ferry money across to Brazil and the rest. So timing, trust are quite important. Representation is also key. And then the whole aspect of communication, because when the players' leadership come and meet, they must also go back and communicate with their colleagues and then let them know that this is what we suggested, this was what was agreed on the table, but it's going to be subjected to the final clearance for the Ministry of Finance or whatever it is. So these are some clear parameters around which you should be doing this kind of work.
But you had a very position. You have to make the players happy and also the purse holder. In this regard, government.
Yes.
Also, how are you able to strike the balance? For the player's perspective, is it player power that drags the whole conversation, or the government's inability to pay that much?
You know, contrary to general perceptions, the players, at least those players I dealt with from 2004 the way up to about 2011, were fairly reasonable persons. Actually, very pleasant persons to deal with or to talk to, especially their leadership and the rest, you know. But it was also because they trusted us. They knew whatever the case, we were going to fight for their interest. But the moment that trust breaks down, then of course you'll be exposed, because if the players are throwing the bombs at you and the government is also taking a very transigent position, you will never know what to do. You get me? So you must make sure you nurture a trust, and then that environment is what pervades in the camp. I remember there was one tournament where World Cup 2006, when the issue of bonuses, of course, our dynamic press, they started mentioning the figures in the newspapers and things like that. We got a letter from the German tax authorities in our camp. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, we got a letter that it has come to their understanding that we were due to earn so and so as appearance fee or bonuses or whatever it is. So they were just reminding us by their laws that there were some taxes that we had to pay because we were working in Germany for that. So quickly, we also thought around it and said, okay, no problem. We spoke with the boys and they agreed that over 90% of that should be paid in Ghana. They were not going to collect it there. There was a trust issue because there are a lot of dynamics around this thing. And the worst you can do is where you are dealing with people who do not trust you. So it's absolutely important that you maintain a high credibility and integrity when you are dealing with the players on this issue.
Rafo, your committee. If you want to talk, that's fine.
I have a key thing to talk to Mr. Moses and Mr. Papse.
Okay.
One thing about footballers, we are very easygoing. If you know how to relate with us. That's why Mr. Papse was saying his time, he never had any problems with us. Imagine if you come to a national team, I'm still insisting on the injury side, got injured, go back and send ex-footballer. I play in Italy, so I speak Italian. Steven Appiah speak Italian. Sule speak Italian. Send an ex-footballer who speak Italian to the club to check on the player. What benefit would the player get from it?
It makes a good impression on the player.
Exactly. The club will respect him. Anytime the national team needs him, they will make him available. You didn't have that kind of great relationship with the national team. I remember the national under 23, when we played against Nigeria, we lost 3-1 there, and we came home. We played the game in Kumasi. Most of the professionals, you didn't get them because it's not FIFA
sanctioned
games.
Yeah.
I went back, Inkum went back, and they granted him time to come and play the game. Most of the players, they didn't. I went back, sat down with the president of Udinese. I told him that, you know, you people have a good relationship with Ghana. This is a crucial game for us. We went with all our stars and we lost. We can't just leave the team like this. He said, yeah, okay. Ghana, yes, I think you have good relationship. Oh, Steven Appiah. Then he started mentioning the Liberty players they came for. And they have a good relationship with Alex Asante too. And they released me to come and play the game. So mostly if you get injury and he goes back, send somebody to go and look after the player. Just say good morning. Oh, club, the player was with us here. He got injury. So the FA or the government sent me to come and check on the player. It does a lot for the footballers.
Very interesting point.
Can I
yeah. Very, very interesting point.
No, it's a very, very, very interesting point. It's extremely true.
You know, Freddie, not to cut you short, but I do remember when Essien got injured, the former president Kufuor went to visit him in hospital.
London, yeah.
And I think it was fantastic. Now, currently, we have Inaki Williams, who's injured. Apart from trolling on the social media, I think it is important that one of the takeaways from here is that let's see how we can find out how he's doing. And if somebody is close to Spain, send a delegation. Let's go and find out how he's doing. I think that will help.
Our own party is also injured.
Yes,
for
that would be
4 weeks.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. And Pate, I think Pate is also injured.
Pate is
you know.
injured.
I think let's do all these things to make sure that the boys feel that they are loved. Thank you.
Uncle Fred, you have the floor.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add a little point. You remember, as a matter of fact, I totally forgotten. Just about last year, after one of our qualifying matches on the flight, our coach, Otuado, came to me and then we were chatting. Then they said, "Oh, Fred, I want to once again thank you so much for being part of the team that came to visit me when I got injured in 2006. Wow. I totally forgot. And he was telling me how that actually lifted his image amongst his colleagues and the footballing family in this. So these welfare issues are extremely important. I'm sure the FA would respond to that going forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Fred Papo. Neil
So
Armstrong.
you see, in the long run, it's about how we handle the key actors.
Sure.
That's the summary of this whole thing. And I said earlier, is to see them, and Najma said they are cool, they're easygoing. It's about how we handle them. So that then it doesn't become a big issue later on. And what does it cost? We talked about even flying somebody there. We have embassies in a lot of these countries. Italy, there's an embassy. So it doesn't even need you to send somebody from Ghana. It's the embassy is over there. If we see our national team as the eye of the nation, as the flag bearer of the nation, it becomes easy to do these things. But when the perception or the philosophy is not there, you won't see it. So it's a philosophy, it's a paradigm thing. The paradigm that this 11 players stand, all right, as ambassadors of this nation. And so if any of our ambassadors gets injured, we must invest in ensuring that that ambassador feels loved, feels cared for. In the long run, when it comes to talking about things like bonuses, you will remember that when I was hurt, somebody from the embassy came, the ambassador, the consular, or whoever came there to just visit me or placed a phone call. And it helps. The players are the key actors.
Well, I know watching your MC, probably we're running out of time. Let me just deal with some specifics.
Okay.
Recommendations which will be guidelines into what we do for Qatar 2022. First of all, what teams should be negotiating? Freddie also talked about time. I think it is about time. So when it comes to Qatar 22, I know this FA is very proactive and the ministry is also very proactive. Today is the 31st of August. I think it is about time that the FA, together with the ministry, sit down. And the parties that we recommended at page 58 of the report, and this report, this particular recommendation was accepted by the state. The white paper accepted it. The parties for the negotiation should be the Ministry of Youth and Sports, the Ghana Football Association, and representative of the players. Now, we know that we don't know the team that's going for the World Cup, but at least we know who the captain of the national team is and his deputies. You get what I'm saying? So that should be easy to constitute. And I think it's important that the FA begins to implement what we have all agreed on. So I've talked about the time. It's now. We have to start. And I've talked about the constitution of the people that should participate in the negotiation. Now, what should be the calculation? How do they work it out?
How much is too much?
Well, very good point. Our recommendation was to set a ceiling of $100,000 because the dollar is fixed. I don't want to talk about where the city is going. So we set a ceiling. The government disagreed with us and said that, well, they think you should be flexible. So, fine, whatever it is, let the government, after the team has met, let the government give it a time frame. And we also recommended that the final approval, the whole matter should be submitted by the Ministry of Youth and Sport to Cabinet for approval. All right, so it had to be approved at the highest governmental level in terms of the Ghana's constitutional executive powers. So we said 100,000. They said no. It's flexible. All right. So let's agree on what it is, because we know, having qualified, what is coming in and what is also coming in for preparation. So at least the government, even if it has to pre-finance, knows that those amounts will be reimbursed anyway. So quickly, let's agree on if it's $120,000, if it's still the $100,000 because the city has gone through the roof, whatever it is, let us agree, and we know the parties negotiate. And as I said, the time is now. I think it is very important. And thankfully, this FA has been very proactive. And let me just, because maybe I don't know, you're going to come back to me again. I think Ghana's football administration should look at protecting institutional memory. So people like Papse, as you can see, a wealth of knowledge. There are other people, who have been with the Black Stars from 2004 qualification all the way through. I think we should lean on them for the information that is necessary to ensure that we can arrive at something that is decent and also something that the players will appreciate. And it should include not just the money, but the things that will ensure that these boys will be catered for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brafo. I think that on this panel, we all agree that they ought to be paid. But Fred, how much is too much? Is 100,000 in Ghana's economy today too much, for instance?
That's an interesting proposition. I think, fortunately, I wasn't in the position of Brafo when they recommended the 100,000. Let's drop the 100,000 figure and look at the fact that if, once again, going back to what I said at the beginning, I don't remember the figure now, but I think in 2006 we got 6 million.
6 million.
For a start, 1.5 million for preparations, and then 4.5 at the end of the day as our net. Now, if you look at the gross figure, and then you're looking at something like the 100,000 you are talking about, already 26 players. About
2.6 is gone.
2.6 is gone. 14 or 15 technical team. And now in modern day football, the technical team is not your usual coach, assistant coach, goalkeepers, trainer. There are quite a lot of people.
Video analysts,
backroom staff, and all the rest. So just look at that chunk that would have been gone. Then let's not forget, monies were spent to get the team to play the qualifying matches. If you do all this arithmetic, you realize that you are literally at zero.
Yeah.
If you make all the deductions, like Brafo said, I remember in between 06 and 2010, 2011, the average cost per match was in the region of between $400,000 and $600,000, $700,000. You play a minimum of 6 matches before you qualify. Sometimes you could play 8. Just do the calculations. So if we do all these rough calculations, we'll come up with a figure that should not be so detestable to Ghanaians, because a chunk of it will be coming from the government anyway. The World Cup sponsorship money will not be enough to pay if you're talking about 100,000. So I would not want to look at a figure now. Of course, we can be governed by precedents, but I think 100,000 is a bit on the higher side, personally, looking at the arithmetic and the finances of the reality. I think that's a bit on the higher side. But then we should look at all these things and factor and come to a very clear agreement. And I know the players fully well. If you explain all that to them, that look, ideally would have wished to give you $100,000, but this is the situation. And they would also agree that if they insist on a certain amount of money that appears to be a bit over the board to Ghanaians, it will fuel some kind of rejection. People will immediately start doing their against that we all do not want, So I don't want us to do that, but I think the discussion on the figure should be open. All the parameters should be put on the table, and then the leadership of the players should be explained to us. So these are some of the issues that we have to look at. That is number one. Number two, coming back again to the appearance fee, we are talking about it should be progressive. I do not think it should be a fixed amount. If even at FIFA, at the World Cup, if we go beyond the group stage, we get something, So I'll be more inclined to look at maybe agreeing on a certain percentage of whatever comes to the nation to be shared amongst them, whether it's 20 or 40% or 50%, to be shared amongst the players as top up for the appearance fee. I believe we should be looking at those kind of things instead of rather looking at the quantity first. We should look at the relational, the proportional figure. 20%, 50%, 60%, that is it.
All right. Let me come to Ajumame. Ajumame, if you're a leader of the Black Stars today, and in 2014 you receive $10,000, and the FN ministry comes to you today and says, based on the prevailing circumstances, they are paying you $50,000, for instance, would you agree?
Well, it all depends on what we have been saying. The communication, the things you put on the ground for the players to understand that, okay, we are well secured, so even if you are going for this one, everybody will agree. Like how I said, we are not troublesome. We are very easygoing. When you communicate very well with them, they are easygoing. So it all based on how you talk to them, sit down with them, open up to them, and let them know what is going on. Because why did they come and sit there with you and negotiate? He needs to go back to the boys to convince them to understand. And that is where the problem is. That is the teammate. That is always where we get the problem. I've been on the communication board with Mr. Fred Papo and Mr. Nyantachi and one of the ministers, I forgot his name. And after we went back to the guys, I was sweating. Because
you have to defend what you've agreed.
You need to defend. The minister came and said, guys, we just came. There's no money in the system. Let's do this. From there, we need to go and do this. Okay, he's trying to take something from the bonus, which is a bit of fix there. How are you going to communicate with the boys? Because they think, okay, so we were born a boy and yes, can he be? BGB no. Now he's not agreeing. It's a key. Oh, he has played football. He's been in the national team for 10 years. He has gotten his $10,000. Now he thinks we are just coming now, and he said 8,000, 5,000. Washada. So it's serious. So the communication should be very key. Talk to them, open up to them. Don't hide anything from them. And let the captain go and know how to talk to them and open up to them so that they will understand. I can't bring a figure, but let them be happy.
Let the players be happy. Neil, does the lifestyle of our politician, right from the word go, betray them in this negotiation with the players? Because, for instance, if you are coming to a meeting and you are driving a V8 and you are telling me to take a $50,000, I will look at you and say, no, pay me $100,000. Does that kind of bring a conflict between the player power and, of course, the government?
It's a very, very interesting question. It's a very loaded question. But if we want to be honest, as a people, if you are telling me to take a cut, if you like, of what I think I deserve, and you are not showing by your example that you are taking a cut, why should I take it? That's my blunt answer. If we are being so wasteful, if we are being so intransigent about very obvious things that we could do to better manage our nation state, and our lifestyles portray some sort of I don't careism, as I call it the impunity of leadership, and I'm not referring to any particular political dispensation. We've been in this country since 1992 when multi-party came to more or less stay, and we see sometimes the open display of opulence by our leadership, our political class. And you come and Paddy Man is sweating and bleeding, and in his mind, this is the only chance he has to get something that could help him manage his situation. If I don't show by example that I'm also ready to make the sacrifices necessary for our nation to be better, the player will rebel. The player would more or less say, I'm following your example. And if your example is one that displays the kind of things that we are describing, it becomes difficult for the player, all right, to accept it. The same with the citizenry. If the citizenry are going through some pain, and they find that look at what happened in England. I think when the COVID-19 pandemic was on, there was a law that precluded the holding of parties or social events. And the Prime Minister and then some other minister, all right, they were having a party. And then when he was asked, it was like he wasn't sure whether he was in a party or not. I mean, I may be just paraphrasing it. You saw what happened to him. He was held to account. How much do we hold ourselves and our leadership to account? And so when the chips are down and you're about to go for a major tournament, the players have watched everything you are doing, and so now is our time to, in quotes, all right, show you where the power lies. They will show you where the power lies. And so it's a clarion call that, and not only politicians, anyone in leadership, we need to show the right examples. Because not all the days are equal. There are sunny days and there are rainy days. If you show the right example when it's a rainy day and you're calling upon everybody to put up that umbrella, which is like a pay cut, we'll all take it because you have shown by example that you have taken it as you go along. But when we see the displays of opulence, it becomes difficult. And I will just say, I don't know why you asked me that question. But I hope I've tried to do justice to the question.
You have. My boss was laughing, so I'm sure you have. But, Councillor, did that also culminated into what we saw in Brazil 2014? The mistrust between the government reps negotiating with the boys and how the negotiation prolonged.
No, to be honest with you,
to the competition.
To be honest with you, I think that for the sort of program you have set up, we should be looking forward. So I don't want to really open old wounds. Sure. But just a quick answer. Well, yes, there's a lot of mistrust. The findings of fact are very clear in our report. And I think the lesson from all of it is that we should negotiate on time, and the principles that we have agreed should all be fulfilled. That's all, simple. And we go with it, all right? I think it is important that we don't waste any more time from now, because tomorrow is 1st of September. There are friendlies set for the 23rd and the 27th, and then we are there in Switzerland, playing Switzerland, and the competition is starting. All right, so I don't think there's any more time to waste, because that will hurt the progress that we have made. The other thing I want to make is that, look, there's a distinction between the appearance fee and then the bonuses, the winning bonus
in the tournament.
During the tournament, exactly. When should it be paid and how should it be calculated? I mean, our own view, and I think as all of us have accepted it, I think they started implementing it after the report we had tendered in. Look, you can't say you play one match, then you are paid $10,000. You lose the other two matches, you get kicked out, and you've collected your $10,000, off you go. That's not too fair. You know, if it is winning or qualifying from the round, group stage, then let's all agree. So if we qualify, this is what we're getting. If we don't, then of course it has to be redacted. So I think it will be fair. Ghanaians will understand that. You can't just win one match and then you don't qualify, but you take $30,000 off your run. That's not a very good thing. It's just like telling a boxer, you know, there are 12 rounds. If you fight round one, we'll give you 100 cedis. No. I mean, you know, that's not how it happens. And in athletics, it doesn't happen that way. I know the footballers are going to say they're different sports. That's fine. But I think it is important, and I think that the teams have agreed. And, you know, Ajaman Bedu made a very good point that since then, there has not been too much noise about qualifying round or winning bonuses that are paid. I think the amount was $10,000. It came down to $5,000. I think it's gone back to $10,000. That also has to be agreed. Then we all know it. Is it $10,000? Is it $12,000? Let's all agree on it. And then we know when we are paying it. Do we pay it after you finish all the three matches and you're out of the group, or we pay as you win a match? I think for purposes of Ghanaians and the public, it will only be fair that you get us out of the group and then we pay you. Or if you don't, then, you know, we reduce it by a certain percentage. I think that it will be fair to look at all of that.
Thank you very much, Brother Fuamoni. I'm sure my MC is ready to pick some questions from our audience, but I would want to ask Fred Papo this final one before we go. There's this general perception that when it comes to the negotiations, the leadership of the FA are always behind the players, pushing them to demand more, so that they also get more based on the coefficients calculation.
Okay. Well, let me help Fred. Let me help Fred even before he answers, because the report, you know, he was a very good witness before us. And the conclusion we came to, which was accepted by the white paper, was that treat the FA, whole system in terms of Black Stars as a management system. So have a contract, a management contract with the management. Let them sign it off. It's performance related. It has nothing to do with what the players are getting. And I think that is what should be instituted. I don't know whether they have done it. If they haven't done it, then it's going to cause trouble. There must not be a tie-in between what the players get and what the man. No, I think all of that has been, by the report and the white paper has been thrown out. And that's my problem. And maybe that's why we said that there should be constant stakeholder meetings to find out whether what we all have agreed are being implemented. It's very important. I'll mention a few things like the FIFA standardized agreement between the Football Association and the government of Ghana, and some of the things like the Public Interest Committee, whether those things have been implemented by this current FA. They've got to do it, because that's what all of us Ghanaians have agreed should be done. And it helps to provide a policy framework for dealing with these matters. Otherwise, we're going to go in and out, and that's not too good. And I think the takeaways will be to ensure that these decisions that have been agreed, facts found, agreements made, should be implemented by those who are in charge. That's the Ministry of Youth and Sport and the Ghana Football Association. So to help Freddie, the truth of the matter is this: there should be a separate agreement between the FA Management Committee running the Black Stars and the footballers going to the tournament. That should have been done earlier, so that there's no link or tie-in. If it hasn't happened, then let's not link the payment. There should be a separate remuneration or allowance for the management team, which has nothing to do with what goes to the players. Because once it is linked, then you're going to have a problem.
Uncle Fred.
Okay. Yeah, I think Bravo explained a lot about that, but my first response to your question that management pushes the players is totally untrue. I'm sure you saw Ajman Bedun.
Yeah, you're shaking his head.
We go into those negotiation tables and literally come out as enemies. The players on one side and then the rest of us. You dare not do that, because the levels from which they come, I'm sure, is a bargaining strategy. They start big or high and then they keep negotiating. We don't really do that. But then, like Bravo is saying, I always believe in getting a sustainable arrangement to an issue, and it's quite important that a solution like the contract approach or whatever it is could do, so that it insulates and even prevents this kind of perceptions and speculations. That is absolutely true. Yeah.
All right, Raymond Yamado is on standby to pick some questions from our audience. Raymond Yamado.
Very interesting discussion, and we would open the floor for our guests to throw their questions at our panelists sitting here. And Jerome Ochi already has his hand up. But just a minute, before we get into the question and answer session, I promised you I was going to play a package. Ghana's World Cup since 2006 and where we are now. If my video is ready, let's quickly take the feed. And right after that, I would invite my guests to ask their questions.
The Black Stars of Ghana first appeared at the World Cup in 2006 after several attempts, despite being considered an African football powerhouse with 4 continental trophies to their name. Ghana's first appearance was met with euphoria, and indeed, the Stars did not let Ghana and Africa down. Despite losing to Italy in the opening game, the Black Stars beat Czech Republic and USA to progress to the knockout stage, only to lose to the most successful team in World Cup history, Brazil, at the round of 16 stage. Each player received $50,000 as appearance fee. The Black Stars made their second appearance at the World Cup, this time on African soil, in 2010. The 2010 World Cup in South Africa remains till date Ghana's best ever in terms of performance at the Mondial, after a mixed bag of results in the group stage, where Ghana beat Serbia, drew against Australia, and lost to Germany. Ghana beat familiar foes USA at the round of 16 stage to progress to the quarterfinals of the World Cup, becoming only the 3rd African country to do so. Ghana missed out on a semi-final place after narrowly losing on penalties to Uruguay. The players received $75,000 as appearance fees. Ghana's 3rd consecutive appearance at the World Cup was one that got the whole country excited. The expectations of Ghanaians was at an all-time high. This was the chance for their team to build on their previous successes at the tournament. A semi-final berth was a must for Ghana. What was meant for good turned out to be Ghana's worst ever performance at the World Cup. After losing to USA in the opener, Ghana drew with Germany and were expected to replicate their performance against the Germans in the final game against Portugal to secure a knockout spot. Disaster struck. The players demanded appearance fee of $100,000 before honoring their final game. In an attempt to save the day, government of Ghana had to fly cash into Brazil for the team to be paid. The rest is history. This year, Ghana is set to make another appearance at the World Cup in Qatar after missing out on the Russia 2018 edition. But the ghost of 2014 still haunts the nation. Is the bonus and appearance fee structure sustainable? Let's listen to our team of experts.
So we'll continue to listen to our team of experts here, and right about now, I would invite some questions for our panelists. I think I have one for Ajima Bedu. This on the lighter side. I mean, after joining Accra Great Olympics, are you planning on doing a Roger Miller? Well, Jerome has a question. Jerome, what to you?
Mine is a very simple one, and I would like to take the thoughts of the panel. In South Africa, for all the monitoring I've done on their football, or let's say sports, even in their media, you will hardly see payments made to athletes in dollars. It's always in rand, always. I have checked this over 10 years. Every year I check. Recently they paid their women's team. All the reports, the quotations were in rand, and they pay in rand. I want to find out from the panel. We know Ghana's position already. It's always dollars. But what do you think? Isn't it time that we stick to the local currency? I mean, payments are made in the local currency. What do you think? Thank you.
All right, so Fred Papa will take that, and it will go around, and I'll pick 30 seconds thoughts on this one.
Yeah, okay, thanks so much. Fortunately, I think as per my recent last association with the team, the winning bonuses were paid in cedis. It's as it were converted dollar equivalent, but you are paid fully in cedis. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that ends it. So, Ni?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Mine is just a contribution in furtherance to what Senior Fo said. I think the issue of sustenance of the fee is already settled by the white paper. And if we make reference to it, I'm sure it will deal with this issue once and for all, because I believe, just quick reference, page 21 of it deals with that, where it actually pegs it as a percentage. So my raw figures suggest that it has been pegged at 28.7% of how much FIFA will pay to the FA. And out of that, not more than 60% is to be paid to the players. So that is already settled in the white paper. But I would also want to touch on the issue of insurance, or what Ajman Bedu mentioned. I used to be an athlete myself, and that's how come I stopped, because when I got injured, nobody actually paid attention to me. And it's a very painful thing to go through. However, my reading suggests that, especially for national teams, in the previous, or that's before the New Sports Act was enacted, the National Sports Authority has a duty to institute insurance policy for every national team. It was provided by the SMC 54. Unfortunately, in the current act, no provision like that was made, or it has been taken out. So I think it is an important instrument that we need to get back, so that anybody that gets selected into the national team knows that whenever they get injured, it is not that they become the responsibility of their families, that there is an insurance package to take care of them. Then the final point I want to make has to do with whether the management team instigates. I think that too has been settled by the white paper, that the Ministry of Youth and Sports should enter into a performance-based contract with the management team. And therefore, if we comply with some of these things, the mistrust, the back and forth would be done away with. If we know the figures FIFA is going to pay this year already, then we can already do the mathematics. It doesn't lead to speculations or insult or suggestions that the management team are behind any of these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nee. Any more questions? We'll pick 2 more questions and then we wrap up the summit. Any more questions? Okay. I think there's one hand up here. Okay.
Please, can they give me a justification for the money being paid to all the technical team, whether you are a player or you are not a player? I can't just understand why everybody is paid the same amount and you don't play ball.
Okay, so who is speaking this one? Bafo?
Well, it's a very good point, because in our investigations, all of you remember, even the equipment person received the same amount, and we found that a bit strange. So the recommendation with the government, its white people also accept, is that we got to categorize the levels of the technical team. I mean, the coaches and those who actually are involved are totally different from the other ones who are offering some services to the team. And so you got to graduate that. You can't. And all of that has to be ironed out, all right, and discussed before, the team starts on the final phase of preparation. So I agree with you. It's not everybody that is a technical person per se. There are grades of the technical team of the national team, and all of that has to be set out in terms of who gets what, all right? I know that the coaches get double and all that kind of stuff. I think all of that has to be ironed out properly. And right now, Ghana has got a technical team of 4. So it's not just one, or a head coach and his assistant. So it gets even a bit more complicated and a bit more complex. So all of that has to be ironed out, made open, so all of us know what's going to happen. I think that because of what we're doing, the FA will wake up and do what they must do. I think that's very important. So if we don't learn the right lessons, then you will repeat the mistakes of the past.
Yeah, just to assure the questioner, that is being done. All the technical team do not get the same amount of money. I think the head coach also gets twice, as per the contract that it negotiates with the FA. Another level get about 70% of what the players get. There are others who also get 50%. Others, it's quite clear. It's not a uniform figure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uncle Fred. And Kwame Jumajiman, I'm told you have a question. Kwame Jumajiman, Communications Director, Legon Cities. Kwame? Okay, very well. Thank you very much. Before we go for wrap-up comments from our panelists, I would want to acknowledge or want to say thank you to Accra City Hotel. Accra City Hotel, our hosts, we say a big thank you to you. Perception Management International, they have provided us with all the logistics you see here. The screens, the beautiful screens you see here. Perception Management International put everything together for us. We say a big thank you to you. Our media partners, Happy FM, ETV Ghana, YFM, and Ghana Web, we say a big thank you to you. We'd also want to acknowledge the presence of some dignitaries here. Osei Kufo is head of the Y Triangle. George Amponsa, head of sales, GMA BC. Fafagbeo is the head of HR, GMA Group. And then we have Elikondo, PRO Star Times. Rita Osei Asari, General Secretary Hockey. We have Jeffrey Manzan Owusu, National Sports Authority Director of Sports Promotions. Mark Kwashi, NSA Sports Development Officer. And then we have the Queen of Stand-Up Comedy, Jacinta, is also here with us. And we also have Kwame Jumajiman, Director of Communications for Legon cities. We'll go for wrap-up comments from our panelists. But before that, Ohene, I have a quick question for Ajman Bedu.
Please do.
Ajman Bedu,
Yes.
World Cup, no. Unya Obebo.
David. I have been home for long. I just started training 1 week ago with Great Olympics, and I'm preparing for the Ghana Premier League. I need to get my fitness 120% because even the GCs we have played, I've seen that there's too much physical. The game is too physical here. So I need to be ready for this. I just want to help the guys to grow. They are very talented and to bring excitement to the Ghana Premier League. That's what I can say for now.
Well, so the message we are going home with is that Ajman Bedu doesn't want to do a Roger Miller. Thank you very much.
All right, so closing comments from our panelists, and I'll start from Mr. Fred Papo.
Thank you very much once again.
And you can come with your recommendation as to an advice to this the current leadership of the FA and the ministry on the best practices going forward into negotiations with the Black Stars.
Okay, thank you very much. I think my recommendation will start from the general public. I believe we always have to constantly remind ourselves that the national team is the only national team we have as Ghanaians. It is sadly not a national team representing only a section of Ghanaians. It's not a national team for Olympics or for Kotoko or for Hearts of Oak. It's not a national team for NDC or NPP. It is not a national team for Gans or Ashantis or West. We must always look at the national team in that light. Far too often you see or you sense a certain kind of division that at every point in time, whoever is in power or whoever is at a certain point in office, whether it's Keto Kreku or Mr. Dr. Kofi Amwa, whoever it is, we have others looking at things the other way. We must always put every sense of nationalism aside and look at the national team as our national team. So that whatever ideas, of course, ideas and divergent opinions are always welcome, but we must do that to make sure that we are enhancing the unifying nature of the national team. That's my first advice. And for the FA, I think so far so good, but then the task ahead is not easy. Going to the World Cup is not an easy thing. Qualifying is good, but I can assure you, staying there and playing is far more difficult. We must do whatever we can to avoid unnecessary tensions or unnecessary issues. And like Brafo said, the time for settling the potentially contentious issues is actually now. Let's just do that immediately, get ourselves ready. We make sure the boys are in the best frame, and then we pray for success in our next outing. Thank you very much.
Neil Armstrong, Montagwe.
So just to pick a lead from what Fred said, there are many things that divide us as a people. The national team of Ghana has been one of the places where we can all unite behind a common purpose. And I just like to plead with every media person here to abate the flames that seek to bring division on the back of our national teams. If there's anything that has united us in my few decades plus on this planet, it's the national team of Ghana. We have to protect it with everything we can. The moment we allow division to come into our national team, one of the last bastions of unity in our country is on its way out. Only God knows what anarchy may follow. But back to our major conversation. Brother Fo referred copiously to the white paper. You know, I've studied a little bit of law. I mean, Brother Fo is a doyen of the law. How many white papers before this white paper have been accepted and issued in this country? And how many of them have been adhered to by the persons who are charged with the responsibility to execute well thought through and well-meaning actions to avert problems that cause the commissions to even be set in place? And I'm sure he'll speak to that in his final remarks. But it's with pain that I ask that question. So there's a white paper with so much memory, so much factual basis, and so much wisdom in the recommendations made. And it's possibly sitting on some shelf somewhere, not being referenced towards coming to a certain action step that averts potential problems going forward. It's my prayer that our current Ministry of Youth and Sports and our Football Association, and just as an aside, it will be useful to ask the FA what is being done so far. Because Brother Fo talked about the time is now. Papse talked about the time is now. But it would be good to know whether or not something has even been done already. Maybe they've gone ahead of us. We don't know. So in fairness to them and the ministry, it will be useful to find out where are we in this whole process. But back to that white paper. I was praying that, and I'm still praying, by the way, that leadership of the various stakeholder groups, especially our ministry and the FA, should go back and reference the white paper. It has the force and the backing of law. Is it the case that we are not implementing it out of ignorance or out of negligence or out of a simple disdain for work that has been done before by both our peers and seniors? It's a prayer that they go back to it and pick the letters of wisdom from it and execute. The next forum we may have here, we will not be talking about this thing. We'll be talking about, like Brother Fo said, the future. Those were my closing remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ajumamedu.
Well, what I will say is, we the footballers, we love the nation. We know the kind of support we get from the nation. I remember when we came back from the 2014 Wahala, we had a qualified game in Kumasi. When the flight going, so when we were about to land, you know our Ghana supporters, how they are. They will be at the airport to welcome us. Asamoah saw the airport was empty. He said, hey, and so you could see the passion when we see the supporters, how it gingers us to work. So we are not money conscious. Let's put that aside. We work and we're supposed to be paid, which is a fact. So please, once keep supporting the team. They need our support because when we see them at the stadiums, it changed everything. Without them, we are nothing. So they should keep supporting us. Those who can offer to come to Qatar, they should come and support the players. And I know by God's grace, they will do a great thing for the nation.
Thank you very much. Well spoken, Emmanuel Ajumamedu. Well spoken. Brother Fo, your final words.
Well, let me, first of all, start by commending my good friend Boateng and all of you for putting this up. And my first recommendation is to challenge you to fulfill the mandatory provisions of our recommendations. The stakeholder engagements be held in respect of this, the Commission's report. And I'll just give you one example that will be very helpful. An issue of, we called it legacy recommendations. We said that Ghana should have a style of play. And indeed, we put together the best of our coaches. Coach Ade, all of them are dead now. Ade,
except the secretary, Coach.
Yeah, exactly. Ade, Afrani, what's it called? Osam Dodu, all of them. Including the one who became FA president. I've forgotten his name. Ben Kofi. Uncle Ben was the head of it. And in fact, the one, even Didi Dramani was part of it. He's alive. And then Coach, he does a lot of talking. Chris was also part of it. So I'm praying that my next challenge is for you to hold a seminar or a workshop on the technical aspect of the game as in respect of the legacy recommendations. Because if we do, then our technical director will be chosen as somebody who can fulfill who we are as Ghanaians, the way we play. It's very unique. I doubt anybody go through the archives of the Black Starlets, 89, 91, 93, 95, and then the Black Satellites of, their year group, but also the 93 year group. They were fantastic. We have a way that we play. One of the things that pleased me was to be at the stage where Ghana played Brazil. We lost 3-0. But to be honest with you, Brazil for a Omontam Kasie, we played them off the field. They won 3-0, but when it came to the football, what they call Ojogo Bonito, the beautiful game, we're better at it than them. And that was even without Michael Essien. All right? So I think we need to do this, and I'm recommending that we continue this. The second thing is, we know what we want to do. He gave you the data and the statistics and how to calculate. All of it is there. The timing, the people who be involved in the negotiation, the process of it, and how it has to be finalized by cabinet. So we know what to do. So the ministry, the FA, and let's start it. Let's get it on. Let's not waste any more time. And it's even good if we do it before the team is known, so that nobody can hold Ghana us to ransom. I have been chosen, so if you don't pay me, I'm not going. I'm sorry. Right now, nobody knows the team, but at least we know the leadership, so we can negotiate. When you come and you join the team, you sign it up. This is it. Or, sorry, you're out of it. Okay? So I think it's important that we take those steps. The other thing is to say that all of us want the Black Stars to succeed. And I think it is time for them to succeed. Trust me, what we lost 12 years ago is time for us to recover. And I can assure you that the game against Uruguay, we will win 2-1. We will win 2-1. I will give you the other scores if you see me in chambers. But we can only achieve that with the physical preparation and also spiritual preparation. So we need to pray. I have been told by the FA presidency that they're going to roll out a program because it is important to pray for the team. What you see out there is not all that you see. The word witchcraft, Mr. AHP, witchcraft, AHP. They do it. They have what they do in preparation for these World Cup tournaments. I am telling you. So we will pray. And when we fast and we pray for this nation, trust me, the scoreline that I'll give to you when you see me in chambers will happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brother Fo. And once again, thank you very much for attending this summit. My name is Ohene Bampobrenya, host of Happy Sports on Happy FM from Monday to Friday. I can assure you that there's loads of sports content coming up on ETV Ghana. Please stay with us. I'll hand you over to our MC, Raymond Yamado.
Thank you very much, Ohene Bampobrenya. I would like to say a big thank you to our panel of experts, Mr. Fred Papo. Thank you very much for joining us. To Mr. Neil Armstrong Motagbe. Thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon. To Ajiman Bedu, World Cup winner. Thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon. And to Mr. Moses Fuamuni, thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedule to be with us here this afternoon. To our invited guests, we would like to say a big thank you to you for joining us here. You took time off your busy schedule to be here with us to be part of this very important national discussion. We appreciate your time, we appreciate your contributions, and it is our prayer that everything that has been said here would go a long way to help formulate policies and help steer the affairs of the national team per what the GFA would decide to take from this particular summit. We'd like to say a big thank you to you once again, and to our supporters here, the Die Hard Supporters Union, led by Apirugu Chakapama. We would like to say a big thank you for your support and your contribution to today's summit. To the entire ETV production team, we would like to say a big thank you to you for making things happen over here this afternoon. And once again, we would like to say a big thank you to our hosts, Accra City Hotel, for giving us this venue and for making sure they provided us with necessary logistics to make this happen. It's our prayer that the second edition of the eSports Summit would even be bigger and better. Once again, a big thank you to everybody. A big thank you to everyone for joining us here. My name is Raymond Yamado, and hopefully you can join me from Monday to Friday from 5:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the Happy Morning Show, Ghana's #1 current affairs morning show. And before we go, let me say a big thank you to our bankroller, Mr. Ernest Boatin, for paying all the bills. Thank you very much, everyone, and we hope to see you sometime soon. My name, once again, Raymond Nyamado. Die Hard Supporters Union would give us something to go home with.
MC and production crew, please come. Production crew.